so I can see that as well. So in conjugation, you add something on, and it makes it safer for the body, and it also makes it more easily excreted. So at this point, you want to make it water soluble because you want to get rid of it. So make it water soluble, excrete it in the bile, and then goes out through the gut, or it can be filtered out in the urine. And there's a range of different molecules that can be tagged on to things. Glucuronide, sulfates, methylation. So if you've read Patrick Holford's books, then he talks quite a lot about SAM, S-A-M. So get enough methionine in the diet that it can be made into this compound to help with metabolism of poisons. Acetyl coenzyme A is used. Amino acids can be used, and glutathione. So the previous molecules I mentioned they participate in changing the xenobiotic, but then can be regenerated to their original form. The difference with glutathione is that it itself is locked on to the xenobiotic, so will be excreted. So you have an absolute requirement for the glutathione. You have to keep making it. Oops. Somebody's quite noisy there. Not to worry. So that's something to bear in mind. And not just herbs, lots of other things can induce these cytochrome enzymes. Other drugs. So there's a lot of, we talk about, to some extent, there's an assumption that if herbs are active, then there will be interaction with drugs, because that is the experience of pharmacy, that different drugs interfere with each other. And if you have a look at if you've still got a paper copy of the BNF, if you have a look at the back, is a long appendix of all the different drugs that will interact. And you will find quite commonly that when you go through a patient's list of drugs, that quite a few of them shouldn't be given together. And could be, that interaction could well be contributing to their symptoms. But another famous inducer of cytochrome enzymes would be grapefruit. So some people even say, don't eat grapefruit if you're on the pill, because it could interfere with the pill. But I think that's maybe going a bit too far. And certainly when it comes to oral contraceptives, there is a kind of worry about St. John's wort, but there's certainly nothing been proven that that definitely has an impact on that. I mean, my advice would be not to take the oral contraceptive, but I'm not a woman of childbearing age. It's not my choice, really.
So where does that come from, Donald? Then
what they worry about? I think it's a theoretical observation that the oral contraceptive and ipericum share the same metabolic pathway, so that if hypericum were to induce that pathway, then it would clear the oral contraceptive too quickly, and leave you open to so that you then getting a subclinical dose of the contraceptive molecule. I don't know that anybody's done a definitive study on it, and there's been no reports of anybody saying, well, my pill was ineffective and the only thing I did differently was take St. John's wort. There's no data on that.
So you wouldn't worry about giving St. John's wort to someone who is on the contraceptive pill?
Well, no, but because I'd usually give them really quite a low dose anyway. I suppose you could say things like maybe take it at separate times so that it's absorbed and dealt with differently. If your patient is really worried about it, you might need to really actually do some homework on it. So that might be a question that you could ask Sarah Smith later on in the weekend. She's going to be doing some gynecological herbs with you. So any questions about pharmacokinetics? And I'm going to put you in breakout rooms to look at some papers on that are related to this subject.
Not at the moment. I think I just need to spend some time absorbing it.
Yeah,
I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
yeah. Well, it's kind of why I put it up immediately after the last weekend, which was, I mean, not weekend 7, weekend 6. But I mean, the best in the world, you've got a lot on. It's difficult to look at everything. So I'm now going to try and put you in breakout rooms. So if you bear with me. And in the meantime, if you try and see if you can get hold of those papers on Moodle for the what I call the exercise papers. We got in here. We seem to have lost Heidi actually this time. Okay, so I'll open up the rooms. I think you get an invite to join the room. I can't remember quite how this works.
So I've just got something on my screen that says join breakout room. So should I go to that?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
What's happened
I
there?
can't see that.
Well, the last group didn't work very well somehow. Right, I got it. Hi, so the one you're going to be looking at is the one about cranberry. but um, so say on the interaction of warfarin with cranberry and garlic. Okay, so in a minute I'll put up the questions. So has anybody got that the question sheet, which goes something like a free truth paper, and then what was measured in order to assess the pharmacodynamics, that sort of thing. Has anyone managed to access that question sheet?
No, whereabouts is it?
Yeah, I'm struggling.
It's on the seminars bit of Moodle. Yeah, sorry, this is a bit tedious to work. Right, so the PD and PK seminar, if you open that folder.
I'm in totally the wrong place. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. And, oh, right, I've gone to the wrong place. And then I've made a new thing available called PD and PK seminar questions. So the one you want is questions on cranberry garlic and warfarin. So if you four kind of work on those questions in relation to that paper, see where you get with it, and I'll dip back in once I've set the others going.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Donald.
What am I doing here? How do I get out? Oops.
Have you found it, Rebecca?
Yeah, thank you. Have you?
No.
So it is yeah, Donald has created a new folder.
I think that's St. John's what?
St. John's Wort, yeah. So
Can't.
oops, where have we gone? So the place to look for it is Bob, you've got some questions to answer. Hold on. So these are my questions that I'd like you to answer in relation to that paper. So in order to find the paper, I could either put paper up or the questions up, but I'm not sure if I can put both up. You're all looking really puzzled. If you've got access to Moodle at the moment, you can go on the Weekend 8's Materia Medica Workpack. Exercise papers. Oh no, PD and PK seminar. Exercise papers, and your one is by a chap called Hojo. So would you like me to put the paper up as a share instead of the questions?
Where can we find the actual questions, Donald?
Well, I thought I was sharing them, but obviously not.
Yeah,
No,
I can
I just
see
mean
them.
where on Moodle, because if I look, I can
Oh,
either look
right,
at one or
okay.
look at the other.
Right, okay. So PD and PK seminar. Oh, wait a minute. So there's the Material Medical work pack, and then right down the bottom of work pack, I've opened a new folder which wasn't visible before, called PD and PK seminar questions. And your question is about St John's Wort and Zolpidem.
Okay, got that now. Thank you.
So that was what I was sharing on the screen, I thought. But it might be more useful if I share the actual paper that you're working on. There's some really big frowns here, I'm sorry.
I've got the paper now,
All right, okay,
and I can see the questions.
right. So if you just have a
What was the name of the paper again? Sorry, Donna.
Hojo.
yeah, the first author is Hojo, and its title is something like Drug Interaction Between St John's Wort and Zolpidem in Healthy Subjects. So straight away you can see from that headline that people are going, oh, there's drug interactions. But actually, if you read the paper, there isn't any. So you really have to go beyond the headlines quite often. But today, if I just want you to try and understand some of the terminology in the paper and see how you get on with that. So I will duck out because I've got to go and set up the third group now. Oh dear.
I suppose this paper's on healthy subjects as well, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Oh,
So
hello, Donald.
So have you managed to access the paper and access the questions, or?
Ah, okay. I couldn't find the questions, Donald. Whereabouts were they?
Right, it's in a new folder that I just opened yesterday, which is at the bottom of the Weekend 8 Material Medica work pack.
Okay, 2 seconds.
And it's PD and PK seminar questions.
Okay, I think I maybe downloaded it before.
And the ones that I'd like your group to look at are the ginkgo garlic and warfarin, as opposed to the cranberry garlic and warfarin, which is another group. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So I'll be dipping in and out, and just have a bit of a discussion about it. Maybe try and write some answers down or whatever, and then we can have a plenary group where we all feedback what we found. Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
You okay with that, or Crystal?
yeah.
Every other one I was really confident about, and then I had that, and I
haven't even looked at it.
no, that was
I
the
was
worst
like
one.
literally last night doing it.
You'll be fine.
Found that hard.
Hello, Donald.
Hello.
Hi.
Morning.
So has everyone sort of clapped eyes on the document that I was wanting to look at?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we found it. We still haven't got all the way through the paper yet.
It's really a very technical paper. I could, yeah, there's certain areas that that are more useful than others. So also somewhere on Moodle I've put a glossary for some of the terminology used. I think that paper's actually got on at the bottom of the abstract. It's got definitions of their abbreviations, which is very helpful. The other abbreviation that you might not be familiar with is EC50, which is the effective concentration in 50% of subjects. So it's like an LC. No, what do I mean? It's like an ED50, which would be an effective dose.
Okay.
Yeah. As opposed to an LD50, which is a lethal dose, or an LC50, which would be a lethal concentration in 50% of subjects.
You know, with reading research papers, there's no real magic trick of fully like being able to drill down in certain areas. I mean, it's literally just practice, isn't it? Because I find that I spend when I'm doing my kind of research on things that I spend hours like just looking at a paper.
Yeah. Well, you've always got to bear in mind that scientific papers have often been written deliberately to not to mislead you as such, but to hide things.
Okay.
And to make it as kind of opaque as possible. There was a movement in the 90s to try to make everything clearer and more open and obvious, but I feel that things have gone a bit backwards with that. So I mean, it's different. I wouldn't recommend trying to read things from the top and read it all the way through like a story.
Yeah, okay, that's good to hear.
Because particularly with this paper, once you get onto the materials and methods, then you kind of sort of, oh God, lose the will to live. But also, this is not really a critical appraisal exercise, but some of the things, some of the parameters that you're looking for in critical appraisal, and if next year you'll do this in more detail, but there are various packs that you can get for critical appraisal, and it gets you to say, well, what is the validity of the trial? You know, so one thing that stands out immediately with this is you've got 12 participants.
Yeah.
Very low number. So you've always got to ask, you know, what can they really say on the strength of those
12 people?
Such a small number. So but one thing you could do is have a look at this summary and conclusion and see what they're claiming, and then say, well, okay, so that's what they're claiming. Let's have a look at the detail of the paper and see if what they've described in the paper substantiates their claims. And another thing you can do is have a look at the abstract, and the abstract usually makes a claim. So you should always take an abstract with a pinch of salt, because you know they might be being deliberately misleading for the sake of getting further funding or to scare people or whatever it is. So just sort of use that as a starting point for, well, let's actually have a look at the data. And that's one way in which the figures can be quite instructive, because you can get a visual image of the differences that they're claiming are there, and you know, you can make a judgment as to whether they're reasonable. So just have a go with it and see where you get to, and I'll come back in a few minutes once I've talked to the others.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all quietly reading away.
Mm.
Anything you need to ask me at this stage?
We're just on the last question, so we're just.
Oh, okay, right, good. Well, I won't bother you. I'll go and bother the others. I'm just flipping around between different groups at the moment.
What was measured in order to assess the pharmaco? Oh, hang on.
It's got here under introduction the opportunity of potentially life-threatening interactions between herbal medications and warfarin.
It's theoretical though, isn't it? So what's the theory behind why it would be life-threatening? It's because of the narrow therapeutic window, isn't it? But what's the actual effect thought to be?
Do you know what? I think, you know how we've copied that whole sentence for the first question. I think that needs splitting out between the first question and the third question.
Oh yeah.
Because pharmacodynamics, as in the effect they have on the body, the clinical outcome, as opposed to pharmacokinetics, which is the processing by the body.
Mm.
So platelet aggregation is going to be dynamics, isn't it? And then the binding stuff is going to be kinetics.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find out what the INR is?
Not really. I googled it. Hang on.
I think I might have put that on the glossary somewhere on Moodle.
Okay.
But it's the international normalized ratio. So it's a sophisticated version of clotting time, as it were. So basically,
okay.
the higher the INR, the longer it's taking the body to stop bleeding.
Okay.
So you want to keep INR within certain limits, and if it's getting too high, it's suggesting that warfarin is blocking the normal coagulation or whatever.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Donald.
Any more questions for me while I'm here? Otherwise, I'll go and pester somebody else.
No, I think we're getting it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You okay with this, Crystal?
Yeah. Just
Yeah. It's a tricky business, but it's the sort of things that herbalists get challenged about. So it's worth taking the time to try and understand some of it.
definitely.
INR at baseline. Oh, that's the international not normalized ratio time.
Well, you're quite lucky. I think they give you yeah.
So that's that curve. The elimination rate constant.
I did put a glossary up on
Moodle.
Moodle somewhere. remember where it is. I think it's in the background papers. So PD and PK seminar background papers.
Okay.
And I could put that up on the screen briefly if that's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Donald.
INR, there we go, International Normal Ratio.
So you're gradually getting somewhere.
Yeah, I think we've answered one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's yeah. I've got to confess, I think this is the hardest paper to navigate of the three.
Okay.
So I thought I'd put the best brains on it.
You're right.
A4 activity.
Say that again.
On what basis do the authors suppose that this effect is due to St John's wort enhancing CYP3A4 activity?
So is the question asking us
Why
do
the
they
authors why the authors think it is?
Yeah. Why do they think
Yeah.
it is? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Lost it again now.
Is that to do with the metabolism of the zolpidem? Is that why they're saying they think that is? Because it's so low?
Yeah, I'm assuming because administration of it for 14 days greatly decreased the plasma concentration of it, of zolpidem, compared to the zolpidem alone. So the plasma concentration was different with the administration of the St John's wort. But why they think it was that way?
The repeated administration of St John's wort decreases the plasma concentration.
Yeah.
So that's why.
They might think it's that way because of previous reports. There's been previous reports for other CYP3A substrates such as warfarin, digazine, maybe.
Also, it says here that CYP3A4 is 61% of the metabolic pathways through which it's metabolized. Don't know. Yeah, because CYP2C1 is very low. It's likely not to be causing of the reduction in the plasma levels. I don't know.
Sounds like you're getting there. Have you any questions for me while I'm here?
Can't think of any.
No, don't think so.
I'll go and bother somebody else then. Hello, I thought I'd stick my nose in again.
Hello.
Hello.
We're struggling with the last question a little bit, Donald.
Right.